when this first came out, and I saw it a couple years ago, or predicted a couple years ago, but we saw it perfectly last year when we said a team could put together its money in a bundle, the less successful teams, and go after one top player. And we saw Missouri, speaking of, do that with Luther Burden. They had a ridiculous package out there. He got a lot of money, went to Missouri, caused a locker room issue, maybe. We don't know the details there, but why did Dominic Lovett, their most successful wide receiver, who did not have the giant NIL deal, decide to transfer?
Yeah. I mean, you see it happen year in and year out. I mean, Texas A&M is the prime example of.
Well, that's what that 2 years ago, that $30 million class.
2 years ago, and how many of that $30 million class is still there? I know they've had several transfer out. I mean, including Smoke Bowie, who's no longer with Georgia, but they've had a bunch of those guys transfer out. And what is Texas A&M? They've closed their NIL collective. I mean,
yeah.
So it is. There's good and bad, but Georgia, I think Georgia's approaching this the right way. You never want to get into a bidding war for guys that are going to come in and possibly be a locker room cancer. And I'm sorry, money brings issues. Money's going to bring problems. And when you have a freshman making more money than Cedric Van Pran and Brock Bowers, that's just, and I'm sure Brock Bowers would be like, okay, I don't care. But that just is a disaster waiting to happen in the locker room.
Well, let's put a hypothetical together. You have Brock Bowers in there, and he's making. He's not. I don't think he's working with the collective. I think he has his own deal, which is great. He absolutely deserves it. But let's say that you are a new tight end, Pierce Spurlin, Lawson Lucky. You come to Georgia, and when Brock Bowers signed a couple of years ago, he had a $50,000 deal from Athens Ford, one of our show sponsors. And then let's say Lawson Lucky shows up and he has a $300,000 deal from Kia of Athens.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, and it's not to say that Brock would resent it, but if I'm one of these younger guys, I'm like, man, I can get paid 6 times what you are, old man. Why the hell do I have to listen to you? Why do I got to carry your gear? Why haze me? Hell, that's not going to happen. You're telling me how to do stuff in the weight room? I'm not going to listen to you. I'm paid more than you, and I know it's a measuring contest, but sometimes that's how we compare ourselves to each other. How much? Whenever you see a criticism, what's often brought up is how much somebody makes. Especially amongst guys and men and players. So the NFL's been dealing with this for years. When you have got superstars who are paid a ton. And if they're not producing and the other guys are resentful, hell, when you got guys being paid more than the coaches, are like, Coach, why should I listen to you? I make double what you make. Why the hell should I pay attention to you, Coach?
And also, you feel the need to play them. I think that's what you're getting. The coaching staff is going to get some backlash if they're not playing this guy that they're spending all this money on. I looked at KJ Bolden and I'm like, Malachi Starks is going to be a junior. If they bring in KJ Bolden, he's making so-and-so, and he's making more than Malachi Starks, who's probably a future first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
What is that? What are we saying? Like, what are we doing to the team? So,
and as a coach, you're telling the older player who's been successful, I don't value you as much.
Yep.
I didn't put that into you. I value this kid more. And if I'm the guy that's putting up the $400,000 or the $300,000, this is where they're going to run into a problem. You put up the money through your company. You want them to be the head of the face of your law firm or your product or your service or whatever. You want that kid out there, starting. So you're calling Georgia going, hey, I put up $300,000 for this running back. Why is he not? He got 2 touches last week. That's BS. You want my help in the future? You better play the guy I've already paid for, and it's just, it's almost like you've coached, I've coached, the chirping from the stands, don't pull my boy. It's like, well, your boy's getting his butt kicked.
Yeah.
I don't care how much you invest. I don't care that you have a sign on the scoreboard out there saying you support us. I don't care that you're doing the percentage night. I'm going to play the best players, and it can create a bigger problem. That's why I think Georgia's been very successful doing the way they do.
And that's one thing that Kirby's always stood by. He's going to play the best. He constantly preaches, I'm going to play the best 11. And I'm going to move guys around. That's the reason why they cross-train guys, because they're going to get the best 11 on the field. And if you have, salary issues behind the scenes, that just causes a whole nother issue. And I think that's something that he's trying to avoid. The outside noise, the locker room noise. He's trying to avoid the team issues. And I think that's one reason that the team stayed so close. You see them every year. You see this team every year. They come together. It's like brothers on the field. And, a big reason why is because they stay locked in. They have a coaching staff that cares about them. They have a coaching staff that leads well, and they have players that are, continuously talked about being leaders since they're a freshman, and by the time they're juniors, it just all seems to gel together. So,
yeah, they're not all angels. They're not all choir boys, as we've seen in the offseason. They have their issues, but Kirby talks about the intangibles a lot. And as a journalist, I'm sure I do it. As a people who are watching the show, I'm sure you do it. Fans in general, when he starts talking about, we need leaders to step up. You're like, man, here's another 5-minute screed from Kirby Smart that's not telling me about this injury or who's playing this position or who's winning this position battle. I want hard data, Kirby. I don't want to hear about we need leadership or accountability. It sounds like a Tony Robbins infomercial, a rah-rah speech. Yeah, I'm a moron because I started tuning that out. But when they started winning, the culture that Kirby created was that accountability. And just as much as he looks for a hardcore alpha dog quarterback or an alpha dog inside linebacker who can get everybody in position, who can recognize stuff on the field, who can make your Chris Smith pick up the block kick and take it back, make a smart decision, something like that. Not make a Tank at Auburn bad decision. You make a smart decision. And I'm just ripping on Tank. He's a great guy. Point being that he looks for those intangibles. It is that leadership. It is that community. And he appoints, this leadership group, and says, look, you got to do it. And when you interview the players and they start talking about, you saw Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean. How'd that work out for you?
Yeah.
I'm just saying
I think this goes all the way back to Nick Chubb and Sony Michel and Bellamy and Lorenzo Carter and those guys when they decided to stay for their senior year. That's where the leadership and the everything was where players started buying in. I think that was the year coming off of the year they went 7-6 and then they go to the national championship the year after. I think that is when when players started buying in, when Kirby started getting them to buy in, and ever since then, it's just been hell on wheels.